The day my children moved me into Willow Creek Nursing Home, I smiled and thanked them for thinking of my comfort. They hugged me quickly, careful not to linger, as if my illness might rub off on their expensive coats. My youngest, Lauren, even wiped a tear, artful, practiced, the kind she saves for Instagram stories. They promised to visit soon. They promised a lot of things. I waved from the front steps until their SUVs disappeared down the tree-lined drive. Then I went inside, unpacked the single suitcase they'd allowed me to bring, and waited. My name is Margaret Ellis, though most people just called me Maggie. 68 years old, stage 4 ovarian cancer, 6 months, maybe less, left according to the doctors. At least, that's what I let my 3 children believe. The truth was a little more complicated. It started 3 weeks earlier, the night I called them all to my house, the house they grew up in, the one they kept saying was too much for me to maintain alone. Michael, my oldest, arrived first, 42, investment banker, always checking his watch. He kissed my cheek and asked if I needed anything from the city. Jennifer came next with her husband Greg and their 2 perfect toddlers who barely looked up from their iPads. Lauren, the baby at 35, breezed in last, smelling of expensive perfume and the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money. I served coffee and the pound cake they all loved as kids. Then I told them the news. The cancer had spread. Treatments weren't working anymore. Hospice had been mentioned. The room went quiet, except for the ticking of the grandfather clock my husband Tom had restored before he died 15 years ago. Michael cleared his throat first. "Mom, we've been talking. It might be time to think about streamlining things." Jennifer jumped in. "The house is huge, Mom. Stairs, yard work, maintenance. It's not safe. And with the kids, we can't always be here to check on you." Lauren reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "We found a really nice place, Willow Creek. It's top-rated. They have nurses around the clock, activities, everything. You'd be taken care of." I nodded slowly, letting my eyes fill with tears I didn't have to fake. "I suppose you're right. I don't want to be a burden." They exhaled collectively, relief plain on their faces. Within a week, they'd hired a realtor, scheduled an estate sale for excess furniture, and booked my room at Willow Creek. They even divided up the few valuables they thought I had, Tom's old watch to Michael, my mother's china to Jennifer, and my wedding ring to Lauren for someday. They never asked what I wanted. They never asked if I had savings beyond the modest teacher's pension they knew about. They certainly never asked why I still received quarterly statements from a law firm in Boston. Because if they had, they might have learned that their dying mother owned a collection of post-war American paintings worth more than all 3 of their houses combined. It began with one painting. When Tom died suddenly of a heart attack at 52, I was devastated. We'd been comfortable, teacher's salary, his job at the factory, but not rich. The life insurance paid off the house and left a little cushion. I needed something to fill the silence. So I started going to estate sales on weekends, not for furniture or jewelry, for art. I'd always loved it, minored in art history in college before life got in the way. I learned to spot undervalued pieces, local artists, mid-century abstracts, works by women whose names had been forgotten. The first real find was a Helen Frankenthaler color field piece at a tag sale in Connecticut. The seller thought it was just some old watercolor. I paid $200. It appraised at $180,000. That money bought 3 more pieces. Those appreciated, reinvested, again and again. Quietly, carefully. Over 15 years, my little hobby became a portfolio worth just over $5 million, managed by a discreet gallery owner in New York who took a small cut and never asked questions. I never told the kids. I didn't want them treating me differently. I wanted them to love me, not my money. I figured I'd surprise them after I was gone, let them discover that the frugal mom who clipped coupons and drove a 12-year-old Camry had built something extraordinary. But people show you who they are when they think there's nothing left to gain. The day they moved me in, Michael carried my suitcase, while Jennifer and Lauren arranged my few belongings in the small room that smelled of antiseptic and fake flowers. They kissed my forehead, promised Sunday visits, and left. I waited until the dinner hour when the halls were busy, then walked to the front desk and asked to use the phone. I called Patricia Lang, my attorney and oldest friend. "Pat," I said quietly, "it's time." She didn't ask questions. "I'll be there tomorrow morning."
Patricia arrived at 9 sharp, briefcase in hand, looking every inch the powerhouse lawyer she'd become after putting herself through night school. We sat in the facility's quiet garden, a concrete patio with plastic chairs. "You sure?" she asked. I've never been more sure of anything. We spent 3 hours rewriting my will. Every painting, every stock certificate, every dollar in the accounts they didn't know existed, everything went to Bright Futures Orphanage, the place that had taken in Tom's niece after her parents died, the same orphanage that had struggled for funding for decades. I wrote a letter to accompany the bequest. To the directors of Bright Futures, these gifts come from a mother who learned too late that love cannot be bought, but dignity can be given. Please use this money to ensure that no child ever feels abandoned a way I did in my final months. Give them art classes, music lessons, college funds. Let them know someone believed in them, even if their own families did not. With gratitude, Margaret Ellis. Then I wrote 3 more letters, one for each child. Short, calm, final. I sealed them and handed them to Patricia. Deliver these personally, at the house, after the funeral. She raised an eyebrow. Funeral? I smiled. The one they're already planning. Because I'd overheard them in the parking lot the day they moved me in. "Jennifer, we should probably start thinking about arrangements, save Mom the stress. Lauren, I saw this package at Evergreen Memorial. Beautiful, tasteful. We could split it 3 ways. Michael, and the house should go on the market fast. Spring is the best time." They weren't grieving. They were organizing. 2 weeks later, I stopped eating. Not dramatically, just enough to lose weight, look frailer. The doctors, coached by a discreet donation I'd made years earlier, played along. "She's declining rapidly," they told my children, solemnly. "Prepare yourselves." The kids visited more often then, but it was different, perfunctory. They brought flowers that wilted quickly. They asked about my affairs, if everything was in order. Michael even brought a notary to have me sign some papers just to simplify things. I signed nothing. On what was supposed to be my final day, they gathered around my bed. I'd asked the nurses to dim the lights, give us privacy. I was propped up on pillows, looking every bit the dying woman. Jennifer cried prettily. Lauren held my hand. Michael stood at the foot of the bed, checking emails on his phone. "I love you all," I whispered, voice weak. "You've been good children." They nodded, eyes shining with tears and anticipation. I closed my eyes. The heart monitor beeped steadily. The nurse came in, checked my pulse, and quietly unhooked a few wires. "She's gone," she said softly. The crying started in earnest then. Beautiful, cinematic grief. They planned a lovely service, closed casket, my request, they said, though I'd never made one, held at the big Methodist church downtown. Lots of flowers. A reception afterward at my house, their house now. Over 300 people came, old students, neighbors, friends from the library book club. They spoke about how I'd touched their lives, how I'd stayed late to help struggling readers, how I'd organized fundraisers for the school art program. My children sat in the front row, dressed in black, accepting condolences with practiced grace. After the burial, everyone came back to the house. The caterers had set up a tasteful spread in the dining room. Champagne flowed. Someone put on soft classical music. That's when Patricia arrived. She wore a simple navy suit, hair pulled back severely. She carried a large manila envelope. Michael saw her first. "Pat, thanks for coming." She didn't smile. "I'm here for business." She handed him the envelope. "From your mother."
The room quieted as people sensed drama. Jennifer and Lauren moved closer. Michael opened it slowly, pulled out the new will first. His eyes scanned the pages, face going pale. "What is it?" Jennifer asked. He didn't answer, just kept reading. Lauren grabbed the document, read the cover page, looked up at Patricia. "This can't be real." "It's very real. Recorded yesterday morning at my office. Maggie was of completely sound mind." Jennifer found her letter next, read it aloud in a shaking voice. "My dearest Jennifer, you once told me that keeping this big old house was selfish when I could be in a better situation. You were right. I was selfish. I should have let go of material things long ago. So now I have. Everything I owned now belongs to children who never had a mother to abandon them like they did. I hope you understand. All my love, Mom." Lauren's letter was shorter. "Lauren, you said Willow Creek would be like a permanent vacation. I hope your life feels like one now, free of any obligations to the past. Love, Mom." Michael's was the longest. "Michael, you taught me that time is money. I've decided to invest mine elsewhere. Bright futures will make better use of it than any of us ever could. I'm sorry it ended this way. Mom." The room was silent now. Someone had turned off the music. Jennifer looked ravagingly around. She was dying. How could she? "She wasn't," Patricia said quietly. Every head turned. Patricia continued. "Maggie's cancer went into remission 6 months ago. The experimental treatment worked. She's alive and well. She asked me to wait until after the funeral to deliver these." Lauren made a sound like a wounded animal. "Where is she?" Patricia smiled for the first time. "Somewhere with better weather, under a new name. She asked me not to say more."